So thrilled that so many of you could join us today. My name is Dezso. I'm the FinEquity Facilitator, and today I will be the MC for the event and tomorrow. As many of you know, our annual events are really our treasured opportunities to pause and check in with each other, connect, learn more about our work, and also plan for the future. So we have a fantastic lineup today of sessions and activities, and I really cannot wait to get things started. Before we start, I would like to share a few reminders. Some of them we already went over, we covered in the virtual lobby, but just for the people who are joining, in plenary sessions such as this one, participants are invited to engage in the chat. Mics and cameras will be off. You may keep your camera on, of course. So just to start, in addition to introducing yourself in the chat, please share your name, introduction, and one expectation and goal you have for the day. What do you want to get out of today? And tomorrow we'll ask you the same when we join, but we will, our team will keep track of these expectations, these goals, and we will really try to make all of them happen. Also a reminder that later in the program, in the breakout sessions, participants will be able to have their cameras and microphones on. All sessions are recorded. We will be sharing the recordings with everybody who registered for the event in a few days after the event is over. But we wanted to give you a heads up that we're recording these sessions. And also something that's not on the slide, we will surprise you with a few polls, Zoom polls or Slido polls, so please be ready. And the first one is coming up next. Our first question to you before we get started, I know some of you shared in the chat, but tell us what country are you joining us from? And to do that, please go to slido.com on your phone or another tab on your computer and enter FinEquity, hashtag FinEquity 2020 to be able to log in your response. Another way to do it, you can point your phone camera at the barcode on the screen, and then Slido will open up for you to be able to answer the question. So let's get started. Tell us, where are you joining us from? And I'm doing the same. All right. And as you may guess, the larger the place, we may have to use the same convention, indicates that most people are joining from right now from the United States, Belgium. So just tell us where you are joining us from by going to, on your phone or on your computer, go to slido.com. To get into, be able to answer the question, enter hashtag FinEquity 2020, and then let us know where you're joining us from. Just give it another second. And I know one of my colleagues is going to take a screenshot, but we have about 70 participants in Zoom and about 40 who have answered in Slido where they're from. So we're giving this question another couple of seconds to allow more people to tell us where they're joining us from. I see United States, Canada, India, Indonesia, Belgium, the top locations. And so many other countries. We are really, really excited. And it's we are sad to not meet in person, but meeting virtually allow a lot more of us to join our annual event. So that is definitely a plus from all the countries around the world. All right, so I think we have a very good idea. We are truly a global community. In at events and also on all of our other platforms of engagement. So as I mentioned, we have an amazing lineup of sessions today. Just a quick preview of the agenda. We will start with a presentation on FinEquity. What are we all about? What have we accomplished together so far? And a preview of our working group refresh. And that's going to happen next after this. After the FinEquity presentation, we will have member shares. These are 3 FinEquity members who are going to present from their work and also will let us know opportunities for collaboration and working together with them. After the member shares, we'll have a quick break, and then we will have 3 concurrent sessions also led by our members. And participants will have the option to join one session of their choice. And the session leaders will give us a 1-minute preview of what you can expect in those sessions before you make that choice. From those 3 breakout sessions, we're coming back in a virtual networking environment. We decided that we should spend some time just talking to each other, maybe 10 to 15 minutes in smaller groups. And then we will conclude the first part of the day. Helly, if you want to move the arrow down as we are, if it works. If it doesn't, it's okay. So, the virtual networking will happen around 12:30, and then we conclude the first portion of our event at 1 o'clock. And then later this afternoon, and I will remind you again before we close, we have a session that is hosted by FinEquity ALC in Spanish at 1. And then later tonight, we have a session co-host in partnership with Microsafe Consulting, focused on the pandemic in Asia, women's digital and financial services adoption and resilience. This session is scheduled for later in the day EST time, but it will be very convenient for time zones in Asia Pacific. So without, we can move on. Before we start, let's check in. How do we feel? Curious, excited, nervous, sleepy, ready? And we have another poll for you to let us know how you're feeling. Let us know. We have something in store for everyone. So don't worry, be honest. Are you curious? Are you excited? Are you sleepy? We have virtual coffee if you are, or virtual tea, and definitely lots of interesting sessions for everyone who's curious, excited, ready, and nobody is nervous. Great, except me, maybe, but I will not be nervous now, seeing that most people are definitely curious, excited, and ready. So thank you for that. If we can move on. As I mentioned, we have fabulous sessions in the store for you, but I wanted to also let you know who are your hosts today. Your hosts, if we can close the poll, let me see on my screen so I can see everybody's faces. This is the FinEquity team, and you will hear from most of us throughout the various sessions, and I invite you, my colleague Etta will put the link to our bios in the chat so you can read more about who we are and our backgrounds, but basically Antonique, Yasmin, myself, Katie, Nisha, Ditlin, Etta, and other people work diligently to make this event happen, and all of the things you see coming from FinEquity. So this is us. We are so excited to welcome you today. And without any further ado, I will turn it over to my colleague Yasmin, who will tell us more about FinEquity.
Thanks so much, Diana. If I can have the next slide, please. I think my name is known to many of you. It's in many emails that you received. I'd like to start things off with a poll to see how have you engaged with FinEquity. So perhaps you've attended an event, participated in webinars, hosted a peer review, shared resources on D groups, and we made this poll just to introduce some of those who haven't engaged before, to introduce you to the ways in which you can engage with FinEquity. These are all community building activities, that we offer. Most of you have participated in our webinars. That's definitely quite popular. Our most recent D Groups dialogue on myths in women's financial inclusion, in women's digital financial inclusion, just exploded, which was great to see so many of you engaging on that one. We could get more of you hosting peer reviews, it looks like. So something to think about for the future. Oh, I see that you can only select one of the options. I see. So our numbers would perhaps be different if we had constructed the poll differently. But it's good to see that people selected things across the range of activities that we host. Thanks for pointing that out, Julia. If we can go to the next slide. So FinEquity is, as we've said, this global community. There are researchers amongst you, practitioners, policymakers, as we've seen in the chat. Our reach currently is between 1,500 and 2,000, I would say, around the world. And we're trying to bring people together to share ideas, tools, and best practices, collaborate on our common priorities, and create innovative solutions for women's greater financial inclusion and economic empowerment. That's really what I look forward to most. We have a diverse membership. As you can see here, the dynamics are always changing because our membership is always growing, but we really see ourselves as a bridge between these different stakeholders so that they can engage, across silos. I want to highlight some of the key accomplishments that we've had in FinEquity over the years. If I can have the next slide. The first one that I'll highlight is that we have just published a new knowledge product that is our data brief, which highlights how, as a component of gender data, sex disaggregated data can support women's financial inclusion. And it summarizes the use case for policy and regulation in women's financial inclusion, as well as discussing applications for program design, product design, and M&E. So I encourage you all after the virtual sessions to go and check out that brief. We hope to be producing more such FinEquity driven knowledge products with our members in the future. The next thing I'd like to highlight is, we really, we feel, oops, I'm sure it'll come up in a moment, feel like we've enhanced sector capacity in women's financial inclusion. Over 80% of our respondents report enhancement of their personal knowledge in women's financial inclusion. You may see some quotes from some familiar people in the slides to come. Here's one from Clarissa Kudawar, who's Assistant Director, Central Bank of Ghana. And she told us, as a regulator, I stand to benefit a lot from this community of practice. We stand to craft better regulations when we have a better appreciation of issues inhibiting financial inclusion beyond financial access, especially from a gender perspective. So we're really hearing from our members that, our activities have built capacity in the sector. The next one accomplishment I'd like to highlight is how we've crafted meaningful connections and community. Amanda Schwartz from ideo.org said, FinEquity helped to brainstorm additional people outside of the usual suspects. And it was great to have so many people sending thoughtful referrals that I can't imagine I would have gotten otherwise. So as I mentioned earlier, we're breaking down silos, we're making new connections between people. And more than half of our members say they've made important new connections relevant to their work through FinEquity meetings and inclusive spaces. I think we've also done a fairly good job at advancing innovative thinking. That's the next slide I'd like to highlight. So I already referenced our D Groups dialogues. Many of you have attended our webinars, as you showed in the polls. So we're really creating these spaces for you to share innovation with one another. And perhaps many of you already know Marina Dimova from Women's World Banking. She's told us, you're seeing new themes and ideas. These are nice to share and cross-pollinate with. So I think you can feel proud and excited that as you engage on these platforms, you actually are, influencing what others in the community are doing, and they are listening to you and your experiences and shaping their work programs based on that. We're really hoping to push the boundaries on inspiring new areas for collaboration. Bobby Gray from Grameen Foundation has been a very active member in our social norms working group, and she tells us improvements have been made over the past decade, but much more can happen. The social norms conversation is changing things. We're pushing change for some social norms that we otherwise avoided in the past. These are the frontier issues that our community members want to engage on in safe, inclusive spaces, and that's what we're hoping to provide. So I'll spend a moment now shifting gears a little bit to speak about our recent refresh process. Now, what is a refresh? In our case, it was a productive review of our areas of focus and how we're framing the issues. And we did this because our membership has grown substantially. We launched, over 4 years ago, or just 4 years ago to the day almost. Shelley, perhaps you can correct me in the chat. You were there. We had 40 members in a room, and we've grown now to, over 1,500 members around the world. And the sector has evolved, I think, with various innovations and challenges, and of course, the rapid expansion of digital for women's financial inclusion. And finally, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has challenged us to keep women's financial inclusion at the forefront of our programmatic responses. So these things kind of drove us to do a refresh. And I'll spend another moment on the refresh. Our approach to this was, obviously, we have continual member interactions. Many of you know Katie and Nisha and Diana and myself, and we interact frequently and hear feedback from you on what's important. Over the summer months, we conducted in-depth interviews with 25 stakeholders. These were really quite long and engaged phone conversations. And we did, of course, a survey of our members. We do an annual survey of our members to hear what are the themes that they're interested in and what are the challenges they're facing. So what we're hearing is the next block, if that can appear. We took all of this information and we put it into our revised themes, so to speak, and it's mostly just a build out of the existing themes. And the first one is gender transformative solutions, and this focuses on how to support the financial system to serve more women. The second is digitally enabling financial inclusion. So this focuses on opportunities and challenges of digital financial inclusion. And finally, impact pathways, which focuses on measuring if indeed gender transformation has occurred. So how and if women are more economically empowered. So you may have read the blog that we published earlier this week on our new learning themes. And if you haven't yet, I encourage you to check it out. Tomorrow, we will be engaging much more on these themes. And what's next for us is to define our learning set questions and co-create community activities. So with that, that's FinEquity, who we are, where we've been, where we're going, and how you can connect with us. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our facilitator.
Thank you, Yasmin. I thought we can take about 5 minutes or so to answer any questions on the presentation. So we invite, we already had a question on the data brief, if it covered any geographical region. So we invite our participants, if you have any questions or more clarification, going deeper in any of the things that Yasmin shared about FinEquity, to please post those questions in the chat. But just to answer the question on the data brief, it's global in nature, and I really encourage everyone to check it out, as the annex contains also a very useful list of data sets that disaggregate financial inclusion data by gender, quite comprehensive. So that's very useful. Again, my colleagues are sharing in the chat some links to some of the other things that Yasmin referenced, but we do want to give a few minutes for Q&A just on the portion on FinEquity activities, what we have accomplished so far. And as Yasmin mentioned, tomorrow we will have 3 breakout sessions dedicated to going deeper into the 3 new learning themes that we established after the working group refresh. So please ask any questions away. And in the meanwhile, we will prepare to turn it over to my colleague Katie to moderate the first member share session soon. Also, a reminder of how to connect with us. We absolutely want everybody to join the groups, and that's the first link on this slide. That's our platform for engagement. A link will be shared in the chat as well on how to connect on the groups. It's very easy, and once you're there, you can truly engage with all of the FinEquity members. We also have a website where we share resources and everything that we do as well, LinkedIn, and of course, Twitter. And please continue to live tweet. And I would like to see if there are any questions that come in. We have a question wondering if we're being very nurturing by saying support the financial system to serve the women, rather than saying disrupt the existing financial system to demand more space for the women. So Yasmin, what do you have to say about that? Are we disruptors?
I say yes, absolutely. Thank you, Uthara, for bringing that up. I think we have to do a little bit of both, obviously, but we do need transformational change. We do need to, create systemic change, and that involves obviously supporting the women and disrupting, those elements that are really kind of holding them back and are not constructive in the empowerment agenda. So thanks for that comment, framing.
It's a good kind of mindset to put us on also as we move forward with our sessions as well. Another question, a very good question, whether the working groups, which used to be, can I say already, used to be, we made it public, technology, data and measurement, and social norms, will these working groups migrate to the themes? And the answer is yes. And these, organizing our work under learning themes will give us an opportunity to do more than working groups. So we may have, if members, if we agree with our members that we can have one working group under each learning theme, or a couple of working groups, time-bound working groups within learning themes, we will absolutely do that. So it just gives us more options to craft engagement mechanisms with our members and get things done. Yes, thanks FinEquity team for the space to be honest. I love that. Oh, great question. Have we come across a place where financial inclusion statistics favors women more than men? That is an excellent question. And if we don't have an answer right away for that, I really encourage this question to be discussed in our breakout sessions and in the networking sessions, because we can bring our localized experience to be able to contribute to that.
I would say,
yeah.
I would say the Philippines is an often cited example where the numbers for access at least skew to women more than men. But you know, you have to go down into different usage patterns. So there things break down a little bit. But Philippines is an often cited one. I think actually last year at our event in Singapore, UNCDF presented their data for the East Asia region, where numbers quite often favor women in access, but then there are differences in usage patterns that are quite telling in terms of the impact that financial services are actually having and how people use them. So it's a great topic for FinEquity. I think it goes to our impact pathways learning theme going forward, and we can definitely host more conversations about those kinds of dynamics and what the numbers are telling us.
And I see contributions from our participants, Cambodia, Indonesia, places where